Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Unpontificated. Today, we're going to engage with a reporter question and answer period that Mark Carney gave at the ASEAN conference this week. And he's there, and he gave a small talk in the beginning and then took questions from reporters. I'm not going to look at the small speech that he gave at the beginning of the session because it was basically as bland as the talk he gave to the university students last week, full of little anecdotes, talks here and there, um, but promises, things that he's planning on doing, how great Canada is, and kind of monotone talk. One thing at the beginning, I noticed that at the beginning of when Carney came on the scene, I personally thought that he was a great speaker. I see that was just because it was in contrast to the nightmare we had with Trudeau. Whenever Trudeau spoke, I couldn't stand hearing him. It sounded fake, like he was acting. And I thought Mark Carney sounded at least more natural. But now I think he sounds very monotone. It's the same monotone. He doesn't seem to, go up and down and inflect. There's no energy in his speeches, or at least there seems to be less energy now. Maybe because of he's been in the job for 7, 8 months and he's traveling all over the place talking to all these world leaders. Maybe he's tired. I don't know. But there's no sense of hope and optimism. That talk that he gave to the university students was doom and gloom. Where's the hope? The hope that we had pre-election. This was the guy. This is the guy who was going to do it. And so people gave him a chance. And now, when we talk about how Canada doesn't seem to be doing well, people are still saying, well, give him a chance. It's only been 8 months. Okay, I said, okay, I will. I'll give him a chance. It's only been 8 months, but April, May, June, July, August, September, October. 6 months. Okay, right, no problem. I'll give him the year. I'll give him a year, and then we'll start complaining. I mean, in the States, they talk about getting things done in the first 100 days. But here in Canada, we're going to give guys a year before we can start complaining. All right, no problem. No problem. Anyway, the question and answer period was interesting. I thought the reporters asked some good questions, asked some dumb questions. Saw some repeated questions where Carney had to repeat himself. I thought Carney did okay. But here, let's engage with his little session and go from there. Guys, if you like this content, please like and subscribe and share. And here we go.
Hi, Prime Minister. Sarah Ritchie with the Canadian Press. Have you had any contact with President Trump since Thursday?
I have not.
Given that President Trump said today on Air Force One, I don't know if you heard this, but in the last hour he said he doesn't plan to meet with you for a long time. Is it worth continuing to pursue a discussion, a meeting, a phone call with him at this point?
I didn't see the comment. Look, we stand ready to sit down with the United States, myself with the President, my colleagues with their colleagues, when the U.S. is ready to sit down. We had made considerable progress on a supplement to the trading relationship that we had, considerable progress in the areas of steel, aluminum, and energy, associated areas as well. And as I just said, we're ready to sit down when they are ready to do that. If they're not ready to do that, as those comments indicate, then we were always going to do these things, to be clear. We're going to first and foremost build our economy, build it with generational investments, and you will see that not just the scale of the ambition, but the speed with which we put that into effect in the budget on November 4th, and continue to do what we've been doing over the course of the last few days and over the course of recent months, which is to build those other partnerships and deepen those other partnerships on which we're getting very much traction. Thank you.
Next question.
Yeah, I do think there is a time when we need to stop groveling. Remember when Trump first brought up the fact that tariffs were going to happen, and Trudeau and his entourage went down to Mar-a-Lago. This was even before Trump was even sworn in, but he went down to Mar-a-Lago to talk to him, and then Trump gets sworn in. Now he's the leader, and we have our own election coming up, and then even Carney and his entourage head down there. So in the beginning, we were, kind of groveling. The U.S. and what 75% of our exports go to the U.S. So we certainly did not want tariffs on our goods because it would harm our economy as we are seeing right now. But now when Trump says, because of this ad that Doug Ford put up, Trump is saying we're done with talking, then I kind of agree with Carney at this point. Okay, we'll wait for you. The ball is in your court. When you're ready to talk to us, we're going to be ready to talk to you as well. But in the meantime, this is what we're going to do. We're going to do our own thing. And okay, I see I actually see what Carney is trying to do. I don't know if I agree with what he's doing because he's going to talk a lot about the November 4 budget and the investments that they're going to be putting in the Canadian economy. And we're going to see what the ROI on those investments. Basically, we're talking about above $100 billion in deficit. Remember when Trudeau first got elected in 2015 and he said we're going to run a small deficit of 10 billion? And by the time Chrystia Freeland resigned, it was going up to 42 billion. And then Carney was talking about 60 billion. Now we're in 100 billion. Like, is this sustainable? Like, I don't understand. I'm not an economist, but this just doesn't seem sustainable. But okay, I'm going to give Carney a chance. Give Carney a chance. Let's sing. Give Carney a chance. If this investment of 100 billion, or whatever it is going to increase our GDP, is going to put people back to work, is going to decrease our unemployment, is going to build homes, is going to put people to work, is going to lower prices, let's see. Because I got right now 2 grandkids, and they're going to be paying. They're going to be paying for this if this doesn't work. They're going to be paying. But regarding this question, yes, we're going to wait. If you want to talk, if you don't want to talk to Carney, okay. Well then, Carney, go get us other business. Let's go.
Question, Murray.
Hi, Prime Minister. Murray Brewster with
Hi,
CBC News. President Trump says he's canceled these trade talks because he's upset about the Ontario government ad. We've heard from the Business Council of Canada and even some of President Trump's own advisors who suggest the frustration with Canada runs deeper. So is this about the ads or is this about something else?
Well, look, as I say, and there were a series of very detailed, very specific, very comprehensive discussions, negotiations on the areas I just listed in response to the previous question, up until the point of those ads running. First point. Second point, I would suggest you take the president at his word for his reason. And that is the reason why, from the perspective of the federal government, which I'm responsible, we stand ready to pick up on those discussions when the United States wishes to pick up on those discussions. So those in the room, those exchanging term sheets, those having the discussions about specific areas where we can make mutual progress to the benefit of workers and businesses and communities in our respective countries had been making progress. Those ads came. The president had the reactions which you have seen, made the decisions that he has made, which, those are his decisions to take, and we're in the situation we're in.
Follow-up?
As a follow-up, Prime Minister, given everything that we've seen, Do you really think the United States is interested in making a trade deal with Canada?
Look, we are their second largest trading partner. We provide a series of essential goods for their economy. We are one of many providers, but we provide in some areas essential goods for their economy. And we create more room for them to do other things. I'll give you an example. If you look at Canadian exports of aluminum to the United States, and aluminum is bauxite and energy. I mean, there's a little more to it, but you can simplify it to that. The embedded energy in the Canadian aluminum exports, which provides 60% of the aluminum to the U.S. market, is the equivalent of the energy of 10 Hoover dams in the United States. Now, is the best use of that scale of energy, creating that scale of energy to make aluminum in the United States, as opposed to continue to foster and power the AI revolution, which the U.S. is leading, or power homes and others? I mean, these are decisions for the United States to make. Point being, as a supplier to the United States, and I gave aluminum as one, I could give many examples, we are an important supplier in many areas. As well, we are a large customer. You know, for over 30 states, Canada is the largest customer, export customer for those states in the United States. So there is a very strong, deep trading relationship, and there is an alignment of interests in many areas. And that's the reason why we have elements of the arrangements that we have today with a large degree of low tariff trade and the benefits from that. So, you know, we're ready to have those discussions to further improve them, and we'll have them when it's appropriate.
I think that's kind of a long non-answer. I mean, one thing is that we do have a trade deal with the U.S. We have CUSMA, or USMCA, whatever you want to call it. So we have a trade deal with them. So there's this element, I think, that Carney and his people are saying that deal is fine for now. So we're fine. I think they're playing the long game. And yeah, you'll hear him say that we're not going to sign a deal that's bad for Canada. Again, I still need to see something from this Prime Minister. I do see a lot of work happening. Right now, I still see it, you know, he's kind of like in a rocking chair. You're moving, but you're not going anywhere. So he's got talking about signing deals with Indonesia and intent to do this, intent to do that. Okay, like I said, a year. We need to see some results. We need to see jobs. We need to see, you know. So, okay, we'll see him. But this guy asking, you know, is the U.S. interested in a trade deal with Canada? We have one. We have one. We just, these increased tariffs that have been put on our aluminum and steel and all that, those need to come off. They need to come off. That's just not acceptable. But yeah, Carney was supposed to be the guy who can deal with Trump. Right now, it ain't happening. It's not happening.
Prochaine question.
Judy Trin with CTV News. Donald Trump says he doesn't want to see you at all at APEC. Has the Canadian government given any consideration to the possibility that he doesn't want to negotiate, and do you have a contingency plan for that?
We have lots of, yes. The short answer is yes. To your follow-up, no, I'm not about to detail those contingency plans. But I will go to the big, obvious plan that is there in plain sight and will be further detailed in the budget on November 4th. And we have been saying this for months. I said this before I was elected. Emphasize the importance of us giving ourselves far more than any foreign government could take away, whatever the trading environment. And that's to build at home and to build strong at home. And we intend to unleash hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars of investment right here at home. Well, not right here, but metaphorically there, at home in Canada, well
Did you hear that? Hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars of investment. And I can't wait to see what this November 4 budget's going to be like. Like what you got in this budget, bruh? Wow.
We're building these partnerships.
Less than a month ago, you were at the White House. You seemed very cordial, friendly with President Trump. The two of you were joking. You said you were going to walk away with a good deal. He said that we would be very happy. Is the U.S. toying with Canada, and how did your relationship with Donald Trump go south so fast?
It's a question for him.
That's actually a good answer. That is a question for him. We can all speculate. I think it's, Trump is a deal guy, right? He's a guy who is a deal guy. He's an America First guy. I don't know. Is he schizophrenic? I don't know. But yeah, it's a question for him.
If it is true that a TV ad, that you were close to a deal, exchanging term sheets, and a TV ad caused all of this to be canceled, halted, Trump does not want to meet, are you upset at Premier Doug Ford for running this ad? If this is true that this ad spoiled something that was very close?
Look, I'd say the following, which is that in any complicated, high-stakes negotiation, you can get unexpected twists and turns, and you have to keep your cool during those situations. It doesn't pay to be upset. Emotions don't carry you very far. And we had made progress, to repeat. And we stand by the progress that had been made, the Government of Canada does, and we are ready, when appropriate, to pick that up.
I don't believe him. I don't believe they had made any progress. And I think the ad just gave Trump an excuse to, to say what he said, that he's done talking. There was no progress. I mean, like the reporter said previously, at the last White House meeting, where they were being cordial and joking together, Trump said that Canada would be happy with the deal that Carney and his entourage came back with, LeBlanc and Joly and those guys. But we're not happy because nothing has happened. In fact, it's gotten worse. And I don't think there's any progress happening. I don't think there's any talk happening anyway. And when he says talks have stopped, they had stopped. So it's Kuzma. That's what we're on right now with the added tariffs. And we're just going to continue. I mean, Trump seems to be winning. You've got, where are those guys? Stellantis, some of their, the Jeep Compasses, the Brampton plant is closing or staying closed, 3,000 jobs. And then you got Diageo, the bottling plant for Crown Royal in Amherst, is shutting down, 200 jobs there. So people are talking about moving to the States. Trump is like, cool, I don't have to do anything. So I don't see any progress. I don't believe that. And the fact that he's talking slowly and having to think things through, it just lends credence to my disbelief.
And I'll just re-emphasize that it is the responsibility of the Government of Canada to have these negotiations. And others will have opinions, and others welcome free advice, unsolicited advice is entirely appropriate. Every Canadian is a stakeholder in these negotiations. Every Canadian is a stakeholder in the fact that we're making progress in ASEAN, that we have the agreement with Indonesia, that we have just decided to accelerate trade talks with the Philippines, with ASEAN as a whole. Every Canadian has a stakeholder, is a stakeholder in the evolution of our relationship with China. and the discussions that we will be having at APEC with giants there. So that's the focus, sans émotion, et on va continuer comme ça.
Follow up?
Carney should give Africa a try. Canada has some trade with Africa, but Africa trade is about 1% of Canada's trading portfolio, which kind of surprised me when I looked into that. I thought it would be higher. When you look at this chart from that I saw on Wikipedia of Canada's trading partners, obviously the highest being the US, 62%. This is in 2024. And then the Indo-Pacific, you know, the APEC that he's going to be going to, or the ASEAN people, Europe and Central Asia, 11%, the third, China, 8%. Now this is a region. So when he says China is the second largest trading partner by country, it definitely is. I mean, US and China, country, but these are regions: Indo-Pacific, Europe and Central Asia, European Union, Latin America, but Africa, 1%. So pretty low considering the size of the continent. What products? I looked here. Most of Canada's imports from Africa: gold, oil, fruits and veggies, nuts, cocoa products, mainly from South Africa, Nigeria, and Egypt being the key import partners. Precious metals, lots of them there. Anyway, I think these can be increased, even double to 2%. I think African countries would love to trade with Canada on a larger scale. There are some countries there that are politically sound that you can do trades with.
And just to cast things ahead to where you're going later this week in Korea, can you give us an update on, do you expect to meet the Chinese president at APEC? And what kind of conversations do you expect to have with the Chinese delegation there?
I do expect to, there are plans for me and President Xi to meet. We will pick up on the discussions I had with Premier Lee in New York a few weeks ago. A broad range of issues, both in terms of the commercial relationship, as well as the evolution of the global system. So I look forward to the meeting with the President.
This progress you have made, you've spoken a lot about sectoral tariffs. During your campaign, you were speaking a lot about reaching a comprehensive security and energy deal. Did you at one point give up on that? If so, why?
Well, we talked about, maybe you weren't there, but in July, when we made the decision that we evolved our tariffs with respect to the United States, because we had reached a point by the middle of the summer where under the executive order that pertained at then and still pertains, that the substantial proportion of our trade with the United States is tariff-free. The U.S. was less interested in the security element of the partnership, which is their decision. Look, and let's actually, so less interested in that, and as well was focused in, for most countries, on these so-called 232 sectors, which are by definition sectoral. And they're the major issue for our economy: steel, aluminum, autos, forest products, and therefore naturally it comes to that, and that's where we've concentrated our efforts. Let me take a step back and just a point of context here, which is, the United States has a trade policy. It has a new approach to trade that has come in place with the new administration. We understand that. We respect that. They apply that policy to every country in the world. You see elements of it in the agreements that were announced here in Kuala Lumpur in the last 24 hours. And so that's the approach that one deals with with respect to having negotiations with the Americans. So it just follows. Our approach in terms of negotiations with Indonesia, our approach with respect to the EU, for example, is much more comprehensive. It includes security, it includes defense, it includes broader elements, and there's a symmetry. They're symmetric, those arrangements, and that's how we tend to do trade. But the U.S. does it differently. It's not how we tend to do trade. That is how we do trade, and the exception is the way the U.S. is doing trade.
Anyway, this went on for a little bit longer, but it sounded kind of repetitive. Some of the questions, the reporters were asking the same question. Obviously, trade is different between countries. The U.S. is a big, major country, major consumer. So countries want to do trade with the U.S. because the U.S. consumes a lot. So they have the power. The U.S. does have the power. So they can dictate a lot of stuff. But what's my take on that? I mean, it was good for Carney to take questions. He does take questions, answers them as best he can. I think sometimes he's evasive, very evasive, and I think he says a lot of ahs and ums because he's trying to think of, what to say, some basic untruths that he might be throwing out there, stretching the truth, white lies, whatever. But not really different from many politicians who always hedge a little bit. So Carney is doing a lot of traveling. He's at ASEAN. He'll be going to APEC. He'll be going to South Africa to the G20 in November. Talking to a lot of leaders. The G20 will be happening after the November 4 budget, which we will get, which is okay. I'm waiting for it. It's going to be very interesting to see what comes of that. And I wonder how much leaking will happen before the budget, or what they're going to, because sometimes stuff comes out on the 2nd or the 3rd, and then the 4th itself is anticlimactic, because you already know. But we'll see. We'll see. What scares me is the size of the deficit. That's kind of scary. But when people are working, when costs are low, people are always thinking of the now, what's happening now, without thinking far ahead and the effects on their kids and grandkids. So people will be happy if it's going to help them out, at least in the now. And maybe Carney's thinking of the next election, because depending on what's in the budget, it'll probably get passed. I think it's going to get passed. You may get the Conservatives and the Bloc not voting for it, but if the NDP vote for it, probably. If the NDP don't vote for it, then the Bloc will vote for it. If no one votes for it, then I guess we're going to an election. But I don't think we're going to go for an election. I think the NDP will vote for it. That's what I think. But anyway, we will see. Guys, please like and subscribe. Let me know what you think in the comments, and I will talk to you next time.